In this episode, we start the planning and design for the custom gauge pod of oil pressure and water temp gauges on Project Low Fairmont. Welcome back to the channel, or if this is your first time, this is Straight Six Fan. My name's Grant Tommy. And in this channel, we like to focus on budget-minded, relatable, creative builds, a little something I like to call offbeat hot rodding. And today, we are going to start the process for building the custom gauge cluster for the water temp and oil pressure gauges here on Project Low Fairmont, $4,000 budget build car. And the first things first, I've got a, well, if you've been watching previous episodes, you know where I landed on building this custom gauge cluster, and that's in the ashtray. So that's going to be our first step, is removing this ashtray. But stick around to the end. I've got a question to ask you guys. I want your input. I kind of am debating something on this whole process. So stick around to the end. I will ask that question and get your input. But first, let's get to removing the ashtray. Okay, in the event you haven't been following along, I've elected to build a custom gauge pod that will go in this area in the ashtray, but I want to get this the dividers out, and I'll show you that later, to make more room. But I've elected to do this because I bought mechanical gauges, and in the event the oil pressure one ever leaks from the back of the gauge, this will be a little catch can. But I also want to make a cluster that is going to be something that's easily removed. In the event somebody wants to take this back to like all original, I don't know why, there's nothing about a Ford Fairmont that's really a collector item. But to get this out, there are two screws on the back side. I will be using this offset screwdriver. I don't know if it's got a special name or not, to get back in there. But then otherwise it just slides into some friction clips up front. So let's get to the removal. Okay, after getting this side unscrewed, what I realized actually is this all just kind of pulls out. There's a little lip back here, so you can just pull this out without doing that. But now I've got more room, so I think I may actually still take the bracket off because I want to modify the bracket a little bit, and I'll explain that here in a bit. But just another reason to explain to you guys why we're doing this today, working on the gauges. I don't have the radiator wrapped up. If you watched my live stream yesterday, you saw that I had issues with my thermostat housing, broke. Luckily, Mr. Mach 1, Gary, offered to send me a spare one that he had laying around. He's working on a Fairmont project as well, but he's got a thermostat housing for a small block Ford. If you don't know who Mr. Mach 1 is, I'll leave a link in the description below to his channel. So go check out his channel if you haven't already, but he's going to send me that for free. So in the meantime, I figured this helps me get my ducks in a row for the gauges. But yes, I'm going to keep working to get this bracket off. So I'm going to leave this bracket actually in here now that I got the ashtray off. I'm having a hard time with this one. I just can't get squared up. I can't get under there well enough. My shortest screwdriver, I can't get squared up enough with this and enough pressure on it that I'm starting to strip the head out. So I'm gonna leave that in. But first things first, I'm gonna bend back the cigarette lighter bracket here to help provide extra clearance for myself. Initially, I wanted to take this whole thing out so I could either cut this off altogether or bend it back. But it looks like I'm just going to bend it back. Again, this will keep it to where if the next person really wants to bring it back, everything will be in place now. I might weaken the metal, but I'll let them deal with that. Okay, so I momentarily have this back in, and that is only to test fit the gauges. You can tell I was struggling to get enough clearance to really pound that back up the way I wanted to, but I kind of want to test fit because I want the gauges to kind of have an upward angle as well for readability reasons. So from the steering wheel here, you can see it's not all that bad. But I kind of just want to test fit these in here at the moment. Also, while I was under there, I did some scouting for routing. Poden, I don't even know it. It looks like I'm going to probably end up following the hood latch. There's a decent sized grommet with a lot of extra space, so I'll probably be routing my lines through there. A bunch of the heater stuff is on, the vents are from this side over, so to avoid all that, we're going to probably go that way. I wanted to go that way, which I might still check out now. It looks pretty busy under there, but I might still pop my head in there just to double check, because it'd be easier for the water line to go that way. But anyway, this is kind of what I want to test fit to see, and it looks like I'm going to have enough space anyway. I do want to move them back a little bit, because I do want to retain just at least a little bit of area for an ashtray, or we'll call it trash tray. I don't smoke, so it would be nice still to have a little bit of a spot to throw some, like, straw wrappers, receipts, things like that, to help keep the thing clean. Well, so there was a mistake. Guess I'm gonna have to epoxy this back together. But trying to get this piece out. So that stinks. But we'll persevere. So this is a pretty close representation of what I think I'm going to end up with. I do have the faces kicked back, and they are very easy to read from the driver's seat. So I feel pretty good about this. I just need to take some measurements now so I can rip down that MDF. I'm going to take it to my cousin's this week. He's got a table saw, so I can rip some of that down and get to building the surround. But before I close out this episode, I did want to get to the question that I wanted you guys' input on. So let's do that. Okay, so real quick before we get to question of the day, just wanted to kind of show you side by side of the walnut veneer compared to the dash inserts, and it looks like, yes, I'm gonna have to darken the veneer, but I do think that the wood grain, the direction and spacing, I mean, it's very much in character. So this is going to be awesome. So it will go down there. So I'll have to play around a little bit with the finishing. Maybe find some stain. I think this already has like a Danish oil on it or something. So I'll have to lightly sand this down, and then maybe find like a, probably not ebony, maybe a Bombay mahogany or something, kind of a stain. See if I can't get closer. So I'll be doing some probably test panels, match panels over the course of the week to get that. But I think it's going to be very much the appropriate thing to do, and it's going to fit right in. But on to question of the day. Okay, each of these gauges came with a light, and they've got the little hole here to backlight it. But what I'm curious to see, get your guys' opinion on, is I'm tempted to use the cigarette lighter power line, or hot line, if you will. Now, that means the light's going to be on whenever the car's on. It's not going to come on with the lights like all the other gauges, but it will be lit entirely the whole time. But I'm just curious, what kind of things am I not thinking through that would cause me issues? I figure as thick as this wire is, that would be helpful for when I'll then splice it into two. I figure that would be appropriate to run two things off of this thick of wire, because the lights won't need that much. But give me your feedback. Is that a bad idea or not? Just kind of curious what you guys, what your guys' thoughts are there. But anyway, leave your opinion, your comment below in the comments. But now let's just go ahead and close this episode out. Well, it's time to close out yet another episode. Guys, before I get to the final closing, I do just want to once again give a shout out to Gary of Mr. Mach 1. Just something, if you aren't following his channel, again, I do recommend you go do that. But just the example of him willing to just mail me thermostat housing for free, it's just a good example of who he is as a person, as a channel. He just wants to help people out. So a heck of a good guy. Check out his channel. Again, link in the description below. If you want a Straight Six Fan Pistons tee, link in the description below to my Spreadshirt store there as well. And actually for the month of December, in case you want one as a gift, give one as a gift. They are about probably $2 cheaper than what they normally are here for the month of December. So now's a good time to buy one. If you enjoy this content one way or another, I do ask you to do one of four things, and that's either like, comment, subscribe, or, well, my favorite, share on social media. That'll do it for this week's episode, and until next time, peace out.